Tonight, Iran's new leader issues his first public statement, but his failure to appear in person raises questions about his health. And the Australian government taps into its domestic fuel reserves as the war chokes global supply. Good evening, Charlotte Hamlyn with ABC News. WA's rising share of the GST has other states seeing red. Live to Perth's Rectangular Stadium for the Matildas' quarter-final against North Korea. And what can fans expect from the Dockers and Eagles in 2026? First tonight, the US Central Command has confirmed at least 4 crew members have died after a refuelling aircraft crashed in western Iraq. It says 6 crew members were on board and rescue efforts continue. Meanwhile, Iran's new supreme leader has issued his first public statement saying his country will continue to leverage the Strait of Hormuz. The conflict has thrown oil markets into turmoil, with the regime determined to maintain maximum pressure on the vital waterway. Bridget Rollison reports from the Middle East.
Towering metal skeletons, all that's left of tankers attacked by Iran, as it pushes its advantage in the Gulf.
Certainly, the leverage of blocking the Strait of Hormuz must continue to be used.
A statement read out by a presenter on state media, the first message from Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, since he was chosen to succeed his father.
I had the honour of seeing his body after his martyrdom. What I saw was a mountain of steadfastness, and I heard that the fist of his intact hand had been clenched.
But this did little to kill off speculation about Khamenei's health. The famously reclusive new supreme leader hasn't been seen in public since before the bombing which killed his father and much of their family.
It is possible that he was wounded, but he is safe and in good health.
I wouldn't issue life insurance policies on any of the leaders of the terrorist organisations.
After more than a dozen Iranian attacks on civilian vessels since the war began, the US says its Navy could escort ships through the strait.
That was always in our planning.
Israel and the US have continued their attacks inside Iran, the US president warning more is on the way. We have unparalleled firepower. Watch what happens to these deranged scumbags today. But it's not only regime targets that have sustained damage.
They destroyed that house and this one and ours here. Now we're staying with relatives. Where are we supposed to go? We have nowhere.
Everything is damaged. The bathroom wall has fallen apart, the ceiling and the cabinets as well. In any case, thank God we are safe ourselves.
A rescue is underway for a missing US refuelling plane carrying at least 5 crew lost over western Iraq in an incident not involving friendly or enemy fire. The Gulf states have continued to come under attack from Iran, including essential infrastructure, while Israel is still trading fire with Iran's proxy group Hezbollah and launching nighttime raids in southern Lebanon. As this war threatens to spiral out of control, the United Nations is warning of a growing humanitarian disaster. As many as 3.2 million Iranians have been displaced, while in Lebanon, more than 800,000 people have fled their homes. Bridget Rollison, ABC News, Jerusalem.
The federal government has allowed the release of more than 700 million litres of diesel and petrol from the emergency stockpile to alleviate shortages in regional areas. The move comes as the war in the Middle East sends diesel prices soaring to $2.60 a litre. But the Energy Minister is pleading with the public to stop panic buying, insisting Australia is not running out of fuel. Here's National Affairs correspondent Jane Norman.
One servo in town and it's out of fuel.
It's happened over a couple of days, so people aren't prepared.
With shortfalls across regional Australia driven by a spike in demand, farmers are travelling extra distances to secure crucial supplies.
We ran out of diesel on Monday and on Wednesday we ran out of petrol. So we've had no deliveries since.
The situation prompting a second government intervention in as many days.
Despite the fact that Australia's fuel has been arriving and that our minimum stock obligations are in good shape, of course we have continued to see unacceptable impacts, particularly in regional Australia.
By law, Australia's refineries and importers must keep a certain amount of fuel in storage. From today, they've been given the green light to release a fifth of their stocks. 500 million litres of diesel, or 5 days' worth, and 300 million litres of petrol, enough for 6 days. Less fuel in storage, more in the pump, mainly in regional areas.
This will enable the fuel companies to more flexibly manage their supply chain.
It's on top of yesterday's directive to lower fuel standards, allowing an extra 2 days' worth of petrol to flow from Brisbane's Ampol refinery.
I hope now the government has woken up that this is a serious issue.
The only party offering an alternative solution, One Nation.
If it requires rationing in the cities, we're not saying you can't have fuel, but you have to limit it because we have to keep these semi-trailers moving.
If you want to advocate petrol rationing, you're welcome to do that. That is not my intention.
The problem for Australia is we import about 90% of our liquid fuels. It comes from refineries in Asia, which rely on oil from the Middle East. Reports are starting to emerge that some countries are looking at holding back stock destined for export. China, Australia's biggest supplier of jet fuel, considering cancelling cargoes already under contract. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
Iranian activists in Malaysia have attempted to speak with members of the Iranian women's soccer team as fears mount for their safety upon returning. The women are in limbo, awaiting flights to the Middle East, but say they've been told they will be welcomed back in the country.
A late-night encounter on the streets of Kuala Lumpur. Iranian activists make a desperate approach to the women's soccer team. The players say they've been told they'll be treated well on their return to Iran, even treated like princesses. But Iranians here in Malaysia pushed back, fearing for the women's safety on their arrival. They have deep concerns the players haven't made their decision freely.
If they stay here, their family's life are in danger. If they go back, even their own life is also in danger.
The team was labelled wartime traitors after they didn't sing the anthem at a match in the Asian Cup. 7 players were granted protection visas by Australia. 1 changed their mind. An Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the remainder of the team would be welcomed back with open arms. But Iranian Australians don't buy that. They're calling on the Asian Football Confederation and FIFA to intervene.
They have huge influence. They should use this influence to seek the transparency and the safety of the players.
Analysts claim both of these governing bodies have failed their human rights obligations over this affair. Neither organisation has responded to questions from the ABC over whether a human rights risk assessment was carried out.
The Iranian women are caught in limbo in Malaysia, awaiting flights home into a war zone and an uncertain future. Tim Swanston, ABC News, Kuala Lumpur.
The latest GST distribution is set to increase Western Australia's share of the tax payments to $9.3 billion this financial year. But it'll cost the Commonwealth billions of dollars to ensure no other state is left worse off, prompting renewed criticism. The current system is broken and unfair.
No apologies from the Premier for Western Australia's biggest slice of the GST pie.
Just about every other state, with the exception of New South Wales, gets extra GST from us.
The latest assessment, no state will have a GST share lower than New South Wales. That means WA's allocation will increase from 75 to 82 cents in the dollar, the same as New South Wales and the equal lowest of any state. And that's expected to boost WA's GST payments this coming financial year by $1.3 billion.
I can understand why Western Australians like that, but I don't see why other Australians should see that as fair.
And many don't. New South Wales says it's receiving its lowest share since the GST was introduced, highlighting what it calls a broken and unfair system in urgent need of reform.
I don't think it's transparent enough to justify billions of dollars heading one way or another, and it puts pressure on New South Wales taxpayers.
Economist Saul Estlake is a long-time critic of changes to GST distribution introduced in 2018 to give WA a minimum 75 cent in the dollar return, along with the extra impost that no state will be left worse off because of WA's increased share.
It's enabled the Western Australian government to continue to run budget surpluses whilst every other government in the country, and indeed almost every other government in the world, has continued to run budget deficits.
In total, WA will receive $6.6 billion more this coming financial year than if the system hadn't been changed. The Premier's message to other states: don't bite the hand that feeds you.
It's important that that other states acknowledge the role that we play in underpinning their standard of living.
The Commonwealth Grants Commission also found WA needed more GST because of lower mining royalties. Nick Perpich, ABC News.
The Matildas are in action in their quarter-final against North Korea at the Women's Asian Cup in Perth. Tom Wildey is there tonight. Tom, this is a must-win for the Matildas. How are they going?
Well, Charlotte, just minutes ago, WA's favourite Sam Kerr put the Matildas 2-0 up with 1 foot into the semi-final next Tuesday. Alana Kennedy scored the early goal after a bit of magic from Kerr on the touchline in the 9th minute. Kennedy blasted home on her left foot to put Australia in front. But pretty much from there, for the rest of the first half, North Korea dominated. They dominated possession, they dominated territory, they dominated shots on goal as they pushed the Matildas back in defence. This is a side that is very well drilled, very fit and won't give up. So Sam Kerr's goal early in the second half has really eased the pressure on the Matildas as they were holding on in this game. But now it looks like they are almost, I don't want to get ahead of myself, booked a spot in the semi-final in Perth on Tuesday, and that game will be played at Perth Stadium. This was a must-win game in that if they win, which they look like doing now, they will be booking their spot in the Women's World Cup in Brazil next year. It's the last time that this tournament, the Asian Cup, is directly related to qualification for the Women's World Cup. So there's a lot on the line for the Matildas. 2-0 up, Sam Kerr and Alana Kennedy, the goal scorers.
Tom, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the match. Now it's time for a weather check, and Tabarak Jrood is with us. Tabarak, it's been bucketing down across the country's north.
That's right, Charlotte. We've seen widespread rain and thunderstorms across the top end, and that's been brought on by a low pressure system and a trough over the Northern Territory, which is slowly moving towards the Kimberley. In the 24 hours to 9 a.m, Truscott picked up 55 millimetres, while Columbaroo got over 87 mils. It's also brought heavy falls to already flooded areas in the NT, where authorities are warning residents to be vigilant of crocodiles. Videos shared on social media show crocs galloping through Katherine and relaxing on roadsides around Kakadu National Park. Fortunately, no sightings in the Kimberley region, but that stormy activity will continue over the weekend, so there are flood watches and warnings in place.
The Middle East conflict is also having a significant impact in some of the world's most remote villages. Gulf countries depend heavily on migrant labour, and at least 13 foreign nationals have been killed during the war so far. South Asia correspondent Meghna Bali travelled to a remote village in Nepal to meet the family of one of the victims.
The grief inside this home is overwhelming. "They killed my precious son," she screams repeatedly. Her husband tries to comfort her.
It has been really painful to lose my only son.
29-year-old Dibas Shrestha was killed on March 1st after an Iranian missile attack near Abu Dhabi's Zayed International Airport. The missile was intercepted, but debris struck and killed him.
I saw news that 3 people, a Nepali, a Pakistani and a Bangladeshi, had been killed in the attack. The media showed a photo of the Nepali victim. It wasn't my son, but then we received his body.
Like many in this remote Himalayan village, Dibas left home for work in the Gulf. He worked night shifts as a security guard, one of millions of South Asian migrants that keep the region running. The work can be difficult, but the wages are higher than what they could earn here.
He used to tell us, don't panic about household expenses. I will do better.
Dibas is one of at least 13 civilians killed in Iranian strikes across the Gulf since the conflict began. Most of the victims are migrant workers. Millions more remain in the region, many with no way out, like these Indian seafarers.
Our company is not listening to us. Continuous bombing is taking place.
Their worst fears, now a tragic reality for some. Dibas's body was repatriated and cremated last week, but the rituals offer little comfort.
He had big dreams, to work for a few years, then come back and start a business in Nepal.
Dibas Shrestha left this quiet village hoping to build a better life for his family. Instead, thousands of kilometres away, he became an unexpected victim of war, and the future his family was counting on is now gone. The consequences of a distant war felt unbearably close to home. Meghna Bali, ABC News, Gorkha.
Major US cities will ramp up security around Jewish institutions after a ramming attack at a synagogue in Michigan. Authorities say the attacker drove through the doors and down a hallway before his vehicle caught fire. One security guard was injured and the suspect is now dead. In a separate incident, a gunman with links to Islamic State was killed shortly after opening fire at a university in Virginia. 2 US Army personnel were injured and the FBI has opened a terrorism investigation. A WA court has been told former Australian rules footballer Barry Cable thought he was invincible and could get away with abusing a child. Barry Cable is accused of sexually abusing a girl in his home in Perth in the late 1960s when she was younger than 13. In her closing argument, the prosecutor told the court that while the alleged victim may be mistaken about where it happened, what stood out to her was the sexual abuse. She told the court Barry Cable thought he was invincible and wasn't worried about the alleged victim telling anyone, as he was confident she wouldn't be believed. But defence lawyer Tom Percy said the allegations were simply false. The judge is expected to hand down verdicts on the charges next month. To finance, and it was another lacklustre day for the share market as oil prices remain high. Meanwhile, the consumer watchdog has voiced concerns that Australia's petrol retailers might be overcharging. Here's David Chow.
It was only 3 weeks ago when you could buy petrol for about $1.70 per litre. Those were the good old days. But now you'd be lucky to find a servo selling unleaded for $2.15. Darwin has the highest average price, while Canberra's got the lowest. But Perth was where prices went up the most, up 60 cents a litre. So the ACCC is writing to petrol companies across the nation to ask why there's such a huge disparity. And it's concerned there might be some profiteering going on, which is probably what many of us already suspected. Now let's take Sydney, for example. When wholesale fuel costs go up or down, it normally takes 7 days for retailers to adjust their prices. But what the consumer watchdog noticed is when the war broke out, prices at the Bowser rose almost immediately for some mysterious reason. And while it's not illegal to price gouge, it's against the law to give a false or misleading reason for the overcharging. So this investigation might not get terribly far. Meanwhile, the share market ended its day practically flat, but it's down 2.6% this week, and it's plummeted by more than 6% since Israel and America started their war against Iran. And it's probably no surprise that shares of fuel retailers went up today after the government said they don't have to hold as much in reserves, so they can sell a lot more. Overseas, there were some mild to heavy falls for markets in the US, UK and Asia. The Aussie dollar is a bit weak at 70.6 US cents, and in commodities, gold, silver and iron ore prices rose, while oil was still very expensive at over $100 US a barrel. And that's despite the fact the US has decided to temporarily let other countries purchase Russian oil that's already stranded at sea, which smacks of desperation. And that's finance.
More than 2 decades after she found a message in a bottle washed up on a beach, a Tasmanian woman has finally met the message's author in person. The pair say they're looking forward to the next 25 years of their unlikely friendship.
On this northwest Tasmanian beach 25 years ago, these two women forged a connection, despite being thousands of kilometres apart. In 2001, Stanley resident Diane Charles found a barnacle-covered bottle had washed up, and there was a message inside it.
It happened to be the morning of my father-in-law's funeral, so I'd gone for an early morning walk to sort of clear the air, and then to find like a gift in the sea was pretty exciting.
4 years earlier, cruise ship bartender Erica Marina Boigero had dropped it into the ocean near Norway. Her message read, "Life has taught me all is possible. I wish you good fortune wherever you are," and included contact details for her father in Colombia.
One of the days that I called him and said, "Hey, you received a fax from Australia." I said, "What? I don't know nobody in Australia." So I started to remember, oh, the bottle. Somebody found the bottle.
After keeping in contact since 2001, Erica messaged Diane just a few weeks ago and said she was coming to Tasmania to meet her old friend at long last and see just how far her bottle floated.
Erica had said, "Oh, I just need a hug and a coffee. I don't need to stay or anything." And I said, "Of course you're staying with me." And then I thought, oh, well, if you don't get on, she can go on her way. But now she's staying.
For Erica, travelling to meet Diane has been an important journey.
I just feel beautiful and I feel release that I make it.
The bottle, with Erica's hopeful message, is now on display at Stanley's Discovery Museum. Sandy Powell, ABC News, Stanley.
Fremantle and West Coast get their AFL seasons underway this weekend, with Freo away to Geelong tomorrow and the Eagles on the Gold Coast on Sunday. But what can fans expect from the Dockers and Eagles in 2026? ABC Sport's Clint Wheeldon has cast his eye across both teams.
WA's two clubs are in dramatically different positions heading into 2026. The Dockers are ready to make a genuine push for a flag. Their list is talented enough, deep enough and now experienced enough as a group that anything less than a run that goes deep into September would be disappointing. Freo's defence is miserly and well led, their midfield as good as any in the comp, and the Dockers now have the forward line power, guile and craft required. While their long-awaited premiership may not be won this year, make no mistake, the window will be open for the next few seasons and Freo simply has to reward their supporters with a flag. The only question for the Dockers is the speed of their ball movement. As the game, helped by the new rule changes, appears to be becoming even faster, will the Dockers' style stand up? For West Coast, 2026 is about improvement and their start could hardly be tougher than away to the Gold Coast. But the Eagles must finish the year having got more games into their talented youngsters, and they've got plenty of them. This is a group that should start West Coast on the long climb back to football relevance, and a 4 to 5 win season would be a big step in that direction.
Gold Coast will continue to take a cautious approach with Jamara Ugle-Hagan's return to the AFL, with coach Damien Hardwick refusing to rush the 23-year-old into the side for Sunday's clash against West Coast. Meanwhile, Carlton held on for the win against Richmond by a narrow 4 points after the Tigers threatened a huge boil-over.
Relief after desperately clinging on to victory.
Who would be a coach, eh? Who wants to do this? Seriously, you've got to be a man.
And that is it! Carlton win! They've held on for dear life!
Carlton was facing another collapse. Zach Williams' set shot late in the final term was the Blues' only second-half goal. It was an ugly but hard-fought win after a week in the headlines.
Tonight was a little bit about our club. You know, we're being, targeted throughout the whole week, both inside and out.
For the plucky Tigers, it was an opportunity missed. The difference was wayward spearhead Tom Lynch, who finished with 2 goals, 7.
I think most forwards in the comp in the first part of the season, if you're having 10 shots on goal, you're doing something right. So he understands his execution was off, but it was really blustery out there.
A forward who has to wait to make his impact is Jamara Ugle-Hagan. The former Dog won't be rushed into the Gold Coast side to face West Coast.
He was coming to my office this morning. He's a little bit disappointed, but he wants to play and he's keen to play, and we're keen to play him as well. But we've got to, as I said last week, we want to set him up for success.
The reigning premiers can't afford to leave anyone in the VFL. Brisbane has 17 players unavailable due to injury or suspension.
We're probably facing adversity reasonably early in the season, but the thing about it is that we've been a club, particularly over the last couple of years, that's been able to cope with that really well.
That resilience will be tested when they take on Sydney tomorrow. Tom Maddox, ABC News.
In the NBL, Perth star shooter Dylan Windler remains in consideration to play this weekend's do-or-die clash with Sydney, despite battling an ongoing foot injury. The Wildcats lost to the Kings by 1 point on Wednesday in the first of a best-of-3 semi-final series. The defeat further soured by Windler aggravating an existing injury in the final play.
With Dylan and the way that he's managed himself this year with his body, I don't want to say yes or no because he's been in this moment before and he showed up game day ready to go.
Australia's top working dogs are going head-to-head in the national sheepdog trials in the village of Hall in the ACT. Hundreds of dogs and their handlers are competing for glory, with the winner due to be crowned on Sunday.
Willow waits for the word.
Away, Willow! Away! Get out!
Her challenge is to get these 3 sheep around this obstacle course and into this small pen in 15 minutes.
We've got 3 species out there. You know, you've got your dog, you've got the person, and you've got sheep. And you've only got 3 sheep. It's not like a big flock of sheep.
This is like playing chess. It's very strategic. It's very difficult. Every situation brings new challenges.
A level playing field, these competitors come from across Australia, but all have solid working dog backgrounds.
You don't have to be the strongest, you don't have to be the fastest. You can be 10-year-old or you can be 80-year-old. As long as you can walk, you can do it.
Scott Smith is a zookeeper in Dubbo. By day he works with black rhinos, but the dogs are his downtime. He says communication is key.
Often they don't need more information, they need clearer information.
A word and a whistle work well.
For a hare, I'll just choose 2 shorts. And then for anti-clockwise back, if I just want the dog to walk slowly, I just visualise I'm saying walk up. Yeah, or I can use the word walk.
While she's in it to win it, these are skills Corinne uses every day on the farm.
I think the biggest joy in the world is to get up in the morning, get your working dogs out, get your team out and get to work.
What a good dog. And a good day out. Lish Faya, ABC News, Hall.
Time to get the latest weather. Tabarak is back with us. What's ahead for the weekend, Tabby?
Well, it's looking to be the start of warmer and sunnier conditions, Charlotte, so a good time to take those good dogs out for a walk. Now, today we had a bit of cloud and breeze around. There was even a double rainbow in Martin, so not a bad way to end the week. We did have a warmer night than expected, though. It got down to 18 degrees before reaching a maximum of 27 just before 3 p.m. Much of the southern half recorded minimums in the low to mid-teens. The coolest it got down to was 12 degrees at Newdigate Research Station, and it stayed fairly cool during the day through the Goldfields. Kalgoorlie and Norseman Airport only got to 18 degrees, a stark difference from Telfer and Mandorah in the north, which reached a high of 40 degrees. It was still milder, though, elsewhere over in the Kimberley, and that's due to a lot of cloud cover there, which is associated with that low pressure system and tropical moisture there. There's also a thick band of cloud over the state's southeast where an upper low remains, and that's going to continue to bring light showers and cool, cloudy conditions for areas there. Meanwhile, a ridge sitting across central and southern WA will keep things calm and fairly pleasant over the weekend as the west coast trough begins to develop, and that's going to heat things up again for western parts. Around the country tomorrow, cloudy and 25 in Sydney, sunny in Adelaide and Canberra, a shower or 2 for Darwin, and partly cloudy conditions for the remaining capitals. Back in WA, we can expect widespread showers and storms over northern and eastern parts of the Kimberley as that tropical low slides closer to the region. Meanwhile, mostly sunny through the Pilbara and much of the Gascoyne, with a few towns pushing into the 40s. And the wet weather will continue through the Goldfields and the Euclid tomorrow. Possible storms could drop some decent totals there. More settled conditions for the rest of the state's central parts. Temperatures warming up along the west coast, 33 in Kalbarri, 31 in Geraldton. Further south, skies are still looking cloudy. Showers are also forecast over the south coastal district with heavier falls further east, and that's going to keep things fairly mild with tops hovering around the low to mid-20s. In Perth tomorrow, it's a bit of copy and paste. We've got a bit of cloud around and heading for a forecast top of 30 degrees from an overnight low of 16. On local waters, winds will be southeasterly, 15 to 20 knots, with seas around 1 metre. The sun will rise at 6:15 and set at 6:36. And looking ahead, it's blue skies and sunshine from Sunday, a top of 32 degrees then, and again on Monday, 34 on Tuesday, and then it's warming up to 35 degrees on Wednesday after a warm night as well, Charlotte.
Thanks very much for that, Tabarak. That is ABC News for this Friday. You can catch the news anytime on ABC iView. See you over the weekend. Good night.